Every single day, whether we realize it or not, life gives us a fresh invitation. An invitation to rise, to evolve, to step into a version of ourselves that we haven't met yet, but deeply desire to become. And the beauty of it is, this opportunity isn't reserved for some future moment when conditions are perfect, or when we finally feel ready. It's available right now, in this exact moment. You see, growth rarely arrives in fireworks. It's not some grand transformation that happens overnight. True, lasting growth is quiet, it's subtle. It's in the small, almost invisible decisions you make when no one is watching. It's in choosing the harder right over the easier wrong. It's in showing up 5 minutes early, staying 10 minutes later, doing the thing you said you would do, even when you don't feel like it. We live in a world obsessed with the big breakthrough, the viral moment, the overnight success, the dramatic before and after story. But real change doesn't work that way. The real magic happens in the background, in the daily habits, in the way you talk to yourself when you fail, in how you carry yourself when no one is giving you credit, in whether or not you take that one small step forward or choose to stay still. And here's what most people get wrong. They think they need to have everything figured out before they begin. They believe they need confidence, clarity, motivation, or even perfection to take action. But the truth is, you don't need to be perfect to start. You don't need to know all the answers. You don't need to feel ready. You just need one thing: the desire to grow and the willingness to do something about it. That might mean waking up 10 minutes earlier to journal your thoughts. It might mean putting your phone away and reading a book that feeds your mind. It could be going for a walk instead of scrolling, having an honest conversation instead of staying silent, applying for that job you're afraid you're not good enough for, or simply deciding that today you're not going to let your excuses win. Progress, real progress, is rarely loud, but it's powerful. Because when you start showing up for yourself consistently, when you take just one step more than you did yesterday, you begin to change. Not just on the outside, but deep within. Your self-respect grows, your confidence builds, and slowly, without needing anyone's approval, you start to become someone you're proud of. So if you're waiting for the right time to become who you were meant to be, stop. The right time is today. The opportunity is now. And the only permission you need is your own. One step, one choice, one new beginning. That's how you get better. That's how you rise. True progress doesn't come from doing more. It doesn't come from a jam-packed schedule, a color-coded to-do list, or working yourself to exhaustion. That's the illusion many of us fall for. We believe that if we're constantly busy, constantly in motion, then we must be moving forward. But movement isn't the same as progress. Activity doesn't guarantee growth. And doing more doesn't mean you're doing better. Real growth, lasting, meaningful growth, comes from doing what matters. Not everything. Not the loudest thing. Not the thing everyone else is chasing. What matters? The things aligned with your values, your purpose, your vision of who you want to become. And the way you do those things matters too. With focus, with clarity, with consistency. Improving your life isn't about a dramatic overnight success story. It's not about waking up tomorrow with your goals magically achieved or becoming a completely different person in one leap. It's about the small, quiet decisions you make every day. It's about choosing, again and again, to show up with intention. To be a little stronger when things get tough. A little wiser in how you respond. A little more disciplined when comfort calls your name. That's where the real transformation happens. Not in the highlights or the grand gestures, but in the ordinary moments that most people overlook. The early morning when you get up to read instead of snooze. The workout you complete even when you didn't feel like it. The honest conversation you choose to have instead of staying silent. The temptation you resist. The promise you keep to yourself. It's in those choices, small, daily, often unnoticed, that your identity begins to shift. That's how trust in yourself is built, not by perfection, but by follow-through. You begin to see yourself not as someone who tries to change, but as someone who does. Someone who keeps going. Someone who grows, even if the pace is slow, even if no one is watching. Because true progress is not a straight line. It's not always fast, it's not always exciting, but it is powerful. It's the quiet kind of power, the kind that accumulates. Like water shaping rock, it's steady and deliberate. And over time, it creates results that are impossible to ignore. So don't worry about doing more. Worry about doing what matters and doing it with intention. Don't chase intensity, chase consistency. Don't seek perfection, seek progress. Because the truth is, every day is a chance to be just a little better than you were yesterday. And that, day by day, is how you build a life you're truly proud of. The journey of real growth begins with one simple but powerful act: setting daily goals. Not vague wishes, not overwhelming lists, but clear, intentional goals that stretch you, just enough to pull you out of your comfort zone and into your potential. Because the truth is, most people aren't lazy. They're not unmotivated. They're just stuck, trapped in the rhythm of a life lived on autopilot. They wake up, scroll through their phones, rush through the motions of the day, go to bed, and repeat. From the outside, it looks like they're functioning. But on the inside, something feels off. There's a quiet restlessness that lingers beneath the surface. A sense that they're meant for something more, but can't quite name what it is. A dull ache that whispers, "This can't be all there is." It's not that people don't want to grow, they do. Deep down, everyone craves progress. Everyone wants to feel alive, fulfilled, and proud of who they are becoming. But the path forward isn't always clear. Many were never taught how to grow with intention. No one handed them the tools. And even if they tried before, maybe with all their heart, they stumbled, failed, and slowly started to believe that lasting change was only for other people. The lucky ones, the talented ones, the people who somehow have it all together. But that belief is a lie. Growth isn't reserved for the chosen few. It's available to anyone who's willing to do something radically simple. Choose discomfort with purpose. And it begins with one honest question each morning. What can I do today that will stretch me just enough to grow? You see, the comfort zone isn't bad until it becomes a cage, until it keeps you repeating the same habits, telling the same stories, avoiding the same fears. And over time, comfort becomes costly. It dulls your edge. It steals your curiosity. It makes you settle for survival when you were built for so much more. But the beautiful thing is, breaking free doesn't require some massive life overhaul. It just takes one step, one uncomfortable action, one courageous moment where you say, "I won't stay where I am. Not today." That could be applying for a job you feel unqualified for, speaking up in a room where you usually stay silent, going for a run instead of another excuse, turning off your notifications and doing deep work, having the hard conversation, asking for feedback, saying no, saying yes. Growth lives in those exact moments, not in theory, but in action. And the more you choose those moments, the more you change. The more your mindset shifts from "I can't" to "I'm willing to try." From "that's not me" to "maybe it could be." Setting daily goals is how you stop living reactively and start living intentionally. It's how you take back authorship of your life, one decision at a time. And it's the only way to turn that quiet itch, the sense that something's missing, into something extraordinary. A life that finally feels like your own. But here's the truth, one that's uncomfortable, yet liberating. You don't grow by accident. You don't wake up one day stronger, wiser, more disciplined just because time has passed. Time alone changes nothing. Growth isn't a passive process. It's an act of courage. It's a choice. And not just once, but over and over again. You get better because you decide to, because you choose to lean into discomfort instead of running from it, because you push yourself deliberately to do the hard things that most people avoid. Growth is not a reward handed to you for simply surviving another week. It's the result of effort, of action, of facing the very things that scare you and doing them anyway. The truth is, real growth begins right where your comfort zone ends. And that edge, it never feels cozy. It feels awkward. It feels uncertain. It feels risky. It's the moment before you speak up in the meeting. The moment before you hit send on that bold email. The moment before you try something new that you might fail at. Those moments, the ones that make your stomach twist, your hands shake, your inner critic scream, those are the doors to your next level. They're not warning signs to turn back. They're invitations to rise. But most people retreat, not because they're weak, but because they've been taught that fear is a red light, that discomfort is danger, that if it's not easy, it's not for them. And so they step back into safety, into habits they've outgrown, into identities that no longer serve them, into lives that feel predictable but painfully unfulfilling. But growth doesn't live in the predictable. It lives in the stretch. It lives in the tension between who you've been and who you're becoming. It lives in the choices that feel too big, but matter too much to ignore. And here's the good news. You don't have to leap a mile outside your comfort zone. You just need to lean an inch. Take one brave step beyond the line. Say yes when your instinct says no. Try again after failure whispers, quit. Be willing to look awkward, to get it wrong, to be a beginner. Because every time you do something hard on purpose, you build something powerful, self-respect. And that self-respect turns into belief. The kind of belief that can't be shaken by opinions or setbacks. The kind of belief that fuels resilience when life tests you. So if you're feeling fear right now, good. That means you're standing at the edge of growth. That means you're about to discover what you're truly capable of. Not someday, but today. Don't run from it. Step into it. Because on the other side of fear is freedom. There's a moment, a quiet but powerful moment, that can change everything. It's when you decide to do just one thing today that challenges you. One thing that stretches you. One thing that nudges you just beyond what's familiar. And that single decision, that's the moment you stop existing and start building a life you can be proud of. It doesn't have to be a massive change. You don't need to overhaul your entire routine, move to a new city, or make some dramatic declaration to the world. You simply need to choose one thing that feels meaningful. One thing that makes your heart beat a little faster. One thing that whispers, "This matters." Because the truth is, change doesn't begin with explosions. It begins with intention. It begins when you stop waiting for the stars to align and start acting, even when you feel unsure, especially when you feel unsure. That could mean going to the gym when every muscle in your body wants rest. It might mean turning down that extra drink when everyone else says yes. Maybe it's finally having that uncomfortable conversation, opening that book that's been on your shelf for months, or writing the first sentence of the project you've been avoiding. Small things, yes, but powerful, because they're yours, because you chose them, because they're proof that you're no longer on autopilot. You're awake. You're intentional. And here's where many people go wrong. They try to change their whole life in a day. They try to flip the switch from zero to hero. But real growth doesn't work like that. If you sprint too hard, too fast, you burn out. You get overwhelmed. You fall back into old patterns, not because you're weak, but because the system was unsustainable from the start. The key? Consistency. Not intensity, not perfection. Consistency. Just one small, powerful step. Every single day. And what happens when you do that? You start to build momentum. You start to believe in your ability to follow through. You stop needing motivation because discipline begins to take its place. You stop questioning whether you're capable because every action you take becomes proof. Each small win becomes a brick. And over time, you build something solid, something real, something that stands even when life gets messy. And what's even better, you stop needing to prove anything to anyone because you start to feel proud of who you are when no one's watching. So choose discomfort over ease. Choose growth over the false comfort of playing small. Choose one thing today, not 10, that reminds you you're not stuck. Because that's how transformation begins, not in giant leaps, but in bold, quiet steps, taken daily. That's how you build a life worth living. As you begin to commit, truly commit, to those small daily wins, something powerful begins to shift within you. At first, the changes are almost invisible. There's no applause, no instant transformation, no one standing beside you to cheer. But something deeper is happening, something foundational. You start to build trust, not with others, but with yourself. And that kind of trust? It's rare. It's sacred. Because for so long, maybe you've said things like, "I'll start tomorrow," or "This time will be different." But deep down, you didn't quite believe it. Not because you didn't want it, but because you had broken promises to yourself too many times before. But now, you're doing things differently. You're keeping your word. You're showing up even when it's hard. You're following through even when the mood is gone. And with every action you complete, no matter how small, you're sending a quiet but powerful message to yourself. I can count on me. That's not just motivation. That's identity change. You're no longer the person who tries to be disciplined. You're becoming the person who is disciplined. You're no longer the one who hopes to be consistent. You're proving, one day at a time, that consistency is your standard. And the beautiful part is, you're not doing it to impress anyone. You're not doing it for likes, praise, or validation. You're doing it because it matters to you. This is how belief is built, not by hype or motivation, but by evidence. You begin to see yourself differently, not because someone told you to, but because you've earned that new perspective. You've shown up. You've done the work. And slowly, you stop doubting if you can become the kind of person you admire, because you already are. With every small victory, you chip away at the old version of you, the one who hesitated, procrastinated, broke promises. And in its place, you build something solid: confidence, clarity, and self-respect. The best part? This inner belief isn't fragile. It doesn't shatter when life gets hard, because it wasn't built in comfort. It was built in the early mornings, the late nights, the quiet sacrifices. It was forged in discomfort, in discipline, in the choice to rise, again and again. That's the kind of belief no one can take from you. It's not borrowed, it's earned. So when you commit to daily wins, no matter how small, remember, you're not just making progress on the outside. You're transforming who you are on the inside. You're creating a version of yourself that you trust, that you respect, that you're proud of. And once you have that, you become unstoppable. A lot of people say, "I'll start tomorrow." It sounds responsible, hopeful even, like a plan. But let's be honest, tomorrow is a fantasy. It's the most convenient lie we tell ourselves to stay comfortable today. It lets us feel momentarily better without actually doing anything. We push change into the future because it feels safer there. Distant, harmless, not real. But here's the truth no one likes to admit. Tomorrow doesn't exist. When it finally arrives, it's not tomorrow anymore. It's today. And if you don't act today, you won't act tomorrow either, because nothing changes unless you do. Real growth begins now, not later, not next week, not when things calm down or when you feel ready. It begins the moment you stop negotiating with your excuses and start moving, however small the step may be. You don't need to overhaul your entire life in one dramatic gesture. You just need to take one meaningful step. One action that stretches you just far enough to feel it. It should feel slightly uncomfortable, slightly inconvenient, slightly intimidating. That's how you know it matters. But it shouldn't be so extreme that you break. If your step is so big it paralyzes you, you won't take it. You'll freeze. You'll revert to waiting. And that waiting becomes a cycle. So instead, aim for what we call the sweet spot of growth. The space where the challenge is real, but not crushing. Hard enough to demand effort, but not so hard that it defeats you. That's where transformation begins. You don't need to climb the entire mountain today. In fact, trying to do so is a perfect recipe for burnout, disappointment, and quitting. What you do need is to take the next step. That's it. Not 10 steps, not the final step. Just the next one. And when you take it, you'll find something surprising. The next step appears, and then another, and another. Momentum doesn't come from planning, it comes from moving. Every time you take a step, no matter how small, you break the cycle of waiting. You silence the voice that says, "Maybe later." You prove, in real time, that you're someone who takes action now. And slowly, that changes how you see yourself. You're no longer the person who talks about change. You're the one doing it. And that self-perception is powerful. It's the difference between wishing for growth and becoming the kind of person who creates it. So stop chasing the illusion of tomorrow. Start with today. Start with what you can do now. Start with one brave, slightly uncomfortable, beautifully intentional step forward. That's how it begins. That's how it always begins. Of course, failure will come. Let's not sugarcoat it. No matter how carefully you plan, how hard you try, or how much you want it, there will be moments when things don't work out, when you stumble, when the outcome doesn't match your effort. And that's okay, because failure is not the enemy. Failure isn't proof that you're broken. It's not a sign you're not good enough, not ready, or not cut out for growth. Failure is proof that you're in the game. It means you cared enough to try. It means you stepped off the sidelines and took action. And that already puts you miles ahead of those who are still too afraid to even begin. Look at the strongest, most disciplined, most inspiring people you admire, the ones who seem unshakable. You know what they all have in common? They've failed, not just once, not in small, safe ways. They've failed big, publicly, painfully. They've made mistakes, taken wrong turns, chased the wrong goals, trusted the wrong people. But here's the difference. They didn't run from it. They faced it. They took time to reflect. They didn't wallow in self-pity or hide behind excuses. They asked hard questions. They looked at what went wrong, not to shame themselves, but to learn. And then they adjusted. They moved forward, not with arrogance, but with wisdom. That's what makes them strong. Not perfection, but resilience. Because here's the secret. No one tells you. Failure doesn't break you. But avoiding failure? That will. Hiding from your mistakes. Ignoring your patterns. Pretending things didn't happen. That's what keeps you stuck. That's what turns temporary setbacks into long-term regret. Reflection, on the other hand, sets you free. It gives meaning to your mistakes. It turns pain into progress. When you reflect, truly reflect, you take control back. You stop seeing life as something that happens to you and start realizing it's something you can shape. Regret is passive. It says, I wish things had been different. Reflection is powerful. It says, next time, I'll be different. And that one shift, from regret to reflection, is often the turning point between people who stay stuck and people who rise. So when failure shows up, and it will, don't panic, don't hide. Pause, breathe, ask, what can I learn from this? What did this reveal about me, my choices, my habits, my mindset? And most importantly, what will I do differently next time? That's how the strongest people rise. Not because they never fall, but because every time they do, they reflect, rebuild, and return even stronger. And that can be you too. Start simple. Pick one skill. Just one. Not 10. Not everything. Just one thing you want to get better at. It could be small. It could be personal. It could be professional. But it has to matter to you. Because progress doesn't come from trying to master the world all at once. It comes from showing up every single day to improve at one meaningful thing. You don't need to be good at everything. You don't need to juggle a dozen new habits, read 5 books a week, or transform every area of your life simultaneously. In fact, trying to do that is often why people quit. It's overwhelming. It's unsustainable. But getting better at one thing, that's manageable, that's focused, that's powerful. When you commit to practicing just one skill daily, something incredible happens. Your brain starts to change. Literally, it rewires itself to support your efforts. New neural pathways form. Your thinking sharpens. Your discipline strengthens. You begin to notice things you never noticed before. Subtle improvements, patterns, progress. And with each repetition, each practice, each small win, something else grows. Your confidence. You start to feel different, not because the world around you changed, but because you did. You begin to walk a little taller, think a little clearer, trust yourself a little more. You go from, I hope I can do this, to, I'm becoming the kind of person who does this. And that shift, that inner identity change, that's momentum. Momentum isn't built by doing everything perfectly. It's built by doing one thing consistently. It's what happens when you go from thinking about growth to experiencing it. Maybe your skill is writing, or speaking with more confidence. Maybe it's learning to listen better, or managing your time, or staying calm in stressful moments. Whatever it is, pick it, own it, and practice it like your future depends on it. Because in many ways, it does. That one skill, it's not just a skill, it's a symbol, a vehicle, a container for everything else. Your discipline, your focus, your ability to follow through. And as you get better at it, you're not just improving that one thing, you're upgrading yourself. You don't have to wait for the perfect moment. You don't have to be ready. You just have to start. And then, tomorrow, show up again. And the day after that, again. Not perfectly, but consistently. Because the person you want to become, they're not waiting at the finish line. They're built day by day, rep by rep, decision by decision, through the effort you put in right now. So choose your skill, make the promise, and keep it. That's how growth begins. That's how confidence is built. That's how momentum becomes unbreakable. Daily practice isn't about perfection. It's not about flawless execution or always feeling inspired. It's not about crushing it every time or never missing a beat. It's simply about one thing: showing up. Again and again and again. Because real growth doesn't come in grand viral moments. It's built quietly, in the shadows, when no one's clapping. It's in the early mornings when your bed feels warm, but your goals call louder. It's in the late nights when you're tired, but you still show up for that one promise you made to yourself. That's where transformation lives. Not in the highlight reel, but in the repetition. Each time you show up, no matter how small the effort, you cast a vote for the person you want to become. And over time, those votes start to count. They build confidence, they shape identity, they become your new normal. And here's the magic. Results compound. Not right away, not after one day or 1 week. But with consistency, things start to shift. You begin to get just a little better, more focused, more skilled, more resilient. And as you improve, something amazing happens. You start to feel more motivated. Motivation doesn't always show up at the beginning. It often arrives after the action, after you've pushed through resistance, after you've kept a promise on a day when quitting would have been easier. That post-effort motivation, the kind you earn, is the most powerful fuel there is. And then you enter a loop, a positive feedback loop that feeds on progress. You show up, you improve, you feel stronger, you want to keep going. And that loop? That's the key to unstoppable momentum. It doesn't rely on hype or emotion. It's grounded in truth. You are growing. You are proving. You are becoming. But this loop only starts if you do the most important thing: practice in the dark. Show up when there's no audience. Do the work when no one's watching. Stay consistent when it would be easy to let it slide. That's the difference between dabblers and doers, between those who chase quick wins and those who build lasting change. Because anyone can take action once in a while. But if you want to transform your life, your mindset, your potential, you need to show up daily. Not perfectly, not dramatically, just honestly, intentionally, and consistently. So don't worry if it's messy. Don't panic if progress feels slow. Just keep showing up. Let the compound effect do its quiet, steady work. Because behind the scenes, when no one's looking, that's where your greatness is being built. Want to grow even faster? Ask for feedback. Not someday. Not when it's convenient. Not only when you're doing well. Ask now. Don't wait for life to force you into reflection. Go out and seek it. Actively, intentionally, courageously. Because the truth is, most people don't grow slowly because they lack desire. They grow slowly because they lack awareness. They don't see their blind spots, their habits, their patterns. And you can't change what you won't confront. You can't improve what you refuse to see. That's why feedback is so powerful. It's a mirror. And the right kind of mirror doesn't flatter you. It shows you the truth. Not to hurt you, but to help you. So go to people you trust. People who aren't afraid to tell you the hard truth. people who care about your growth more than your comfort. That might be a mentor, a coach, a boss, a friend who sees your blind spots better than you do. Ask them, "What's something I'm doing that's holding me back?" Or, "What's one thing I could do better?" And when they answer, listen. Don't defend. Don't explain. Don't justify. Just receive. And above all, thank them. Even if what they say stings a little, understand this. Their honesty is a gift, one most people are too afraid to give. Feedback, when embraced, builds something far more valuable than just improvement. It builds self-awareness. And self-awareness? That's the root of all growth. It's the ability to step outside yourself and see clearly, to recognize the difference between how you see yourself and how you actually show up in the world. The more self-aware you become, the more resilient you become. Because now, you're no longer blindsided by your own habits. You start to notice the subtle ways you hold yourself back. You begin to catch the patterns before they repeat. You stop reacting blindly and start responding with wisdom. That kind of growth? It's rare. Because it takes humility. It takes maturity. It takes the willingness to say, "I don't have it all figured out, and that's okay, but I'm committed to getting better." And one more thing. Feedback isn't just something you take. It's something you give. When you see someone you care about struggling, don't stay silent. Offer insight with kindness, with clarity, with love. Because growth is contagious, and when we support each other with truth, everyone rises. So if you're serious about becoming your best self, make feedback a regular part of your life. Not as a punishment, but as a tool, a habit, a discipline. Because the people who grow the fastest aren't the ones who know the most. They're the ones brave enough to ask, listen, and evolve. At the same time, don't forget to feed your mind every single day. Just like your body needs food and movement, your mind needs nourishment too. And you don't need hours of study or stacks of books to grow mentally. Even 10 to 15 minutes a day of focused, high-quality learning can create powerful shifts in how you think, feel, and act. That small habit, done consistently, can completely rewire your mindset. Because here's the truth. Your mind is your most valuable asset. It drives your decisions. It shapes your beliefs. It sets the ceiling on what you believe is possible. And if you don't train it intentionally, the world will train it for you, usually with noise, fear, distraction, and doubt. So choose wisely. Don't just consume whatever shows up on your feed. Don't settle for empty content that entertains but doesn't challenge. Instead, seek information that stretches you, that makes you pause and reflect, that offers insights you can apply right away. Not next month, not someday, but today. Because not all information is created equal. There's a lot of fluff out there. Content that fills your time but not your mind. What you want is content that does three things: challenges your perspective, sharpens your thinking, and equips you to take real action. That could be a chapter from a great book, a deep conversation with someone wise, a thought-provoking podcast, an educational video that offers clarity on something you've struggled with. The format doesn't matter. The depth does. When you feed your mind with purpose, it shows. You start to think differently, speak more clearly, solve problems faster, see opportunities where others see obstacles. That's what mental nutrition does. It transforms the way you move through the world. And just like physical fitness, mental growth compounds. Day by day, idea by idea, lesson by lesson. You won't always notice it right away, but over time, your mind becomes sharper, stronger, more resilient. You begin to crave learning because you feel the difference it makes. So make it a daily ritual, just like brushing your teeth or moving your body. Start your day with something that feeds your growth. And don't underestimate the power of variety. Different voices, different formats, different angles. It keeps things fresh. It keeps you engaged. It keeps you humble enough to keep learning and bold enough to apply what you learn. And remember, the goal isn't to know everything. It's to keep getting better. A stronger mind leads to stronger choices. Stronger choices lead to a stronger life. So start today. Feed your mind, not with junk, but with wisdom. The kind of wisdom that stretches you, strengthens you, and shifts you forward. Be intentional with your environment too, because no matter how motivated you are, how clear your goals are, or how strong your habits become, if you're surrounded by the wrong energy, it will pull you back like gravity. You cannot grow if you're constantly in an environment that drains you. If you're always around people who complain, gossip, play small, or make excuses for why life never changes, eventually, that energy rubs off on you, even if you don't want it to, even if you think you're different, because we all adapt to our surroundings. That's human nature, and that's why your environment must match your intentions. Growth requires community. You need people who speak the same language of progress. People who don't just tolerate your ambition, but ignite it. Friends who hold you accountable, who tell you the truth when it's hard to hear, who celebrate your progress and challenge your comfort zone. You don't need a crowd, you need a core. Even 2 or 3 people who are on the same journey can change everything. Sometimes this means making difficult choices, letting go of relationships that no longer serve your growth, people who always pull you into drama, people who make you feel small when you dream big, people who keep you stuck in old patterns because they're afraid of your evolution. That decision, it's not cold, it's not cruel, it's self-respect. Because protecting your peace, your energy, and your progress isn't selfish. It's necessary. You're not responsible for dragging everyone with you. You're responsible for showing up as your best self. And that starts with creating space for people who support that version of you. Look around at the people you spend the most time with. What do they talk about? What do they value? How do they handle setbacks? Are they growing, or are they just getting older? These questions matter, because the people closest to you influence your beliefs, your habits, and your expectations, whether you realize it or not. So choose wisely. And don't just wait for the right people to appear. Go find them. Join communities that align with your values. Reach out to mentors. Have deeper conversations. And when you find someone who inspires you, lean in. Ask questions. Learn from them. Grow with them. Also, be someone who brings that same energy to others. Encourage, uplift, challenge. Because when growth becomes a shared mission, everyone rises. Your environment either reinforces the person you were, or it fuels the person you're becoming. So be intentional. Be bold. And if you want to move forward, don't be afraid to let go of what holds you back. That's not being unkind. That's being clear about where you're going. And let's not forget your body. Because no matter how big your dreams are, how sharp your mind becomes, or how disciplined your habits grow, your body carries it all. Your ambition, your focus, your discipline, your daily effort, all of it flows through your physical health. So take care of it. Not someday. Not when things slow down. Now, your body is not separate from your goals. It's the vehicle that drives them. And when that vehicle is well maintained, everything becomes easier. Your mind is clearer. Your energy lasts longer. Your emotions stay more stable. You think better. You decide better. You feel better. Start with the basics, but treat them as sacred. Sleep isn't a luxury, it's fuel. When you sleep well, your brain resets. It clears the fog. It processes stress. It sharpens your memory and mood. You wake up feeling like yourself again, calm, focused, and ready. But when you ignore sleep, everything suffers. You become reactive, not intentional. You drift through your day instead of directing it. Movement isn't just about how you look, it's about how you live. Regular exercise floods your brain with oxygen and feel-good chemicals. It boosts your mood. It builds discipline. It reminds you that you're strong, not just physically, but mentally. And it doesn't have to be complicated. A 20-minute walk, a short stretch session, dancing to your favorite song. Movement creates momentum. And food? It's more than fuel. It's feedback. Pay attention to how your body feels after eating. Do certain foods leave you feeling sluggish? Do others give you sustained energy and focus? Your body is always communicating. You just have to be quiet long enough to listen. The truth is, your physical well-being amplifies everything else. When you take care of your body, it's easier to take care of your mind. Your goals feel more within reach, not because life got easier, but because you got stronger. And let's be honest, when life gets busy, health is often the first thing we ignore. We skip sleep, forget to move, grab quick junk food and say, "I'll fix it later." But later rarely comes. And every time you put your health last, you're making everything else harder than it has to be. So flip the script. Make your health a non-negotiable. Build a simple routine that honors your body. And check in often. How do I feel today? What does my body need? What can I do to support it better? Because this isn't about being perfect. It's about being intentional. About remembering that your goals aren't just about mindset and discipline. They live in your cells, in your breath, in your posture, in your energy. Treat your body like the partner it is, strong, capable, wise. Because when your body is aligned with your mind and purpose, you become unstoppable. Then comes tracking. This is the part most people skip. They set goals, they take action, but they forget to check in with themselves. They forget to ask, is what I'm doing actually working? And without that awareness, they stay busy, but not always productive. They move, but not always forward. That's why tracking matters. It's not about obsessing over every detail. It's about becoming a student of your own life, noticing what fuels your progress, and also what quietly pulls you off course. Write it down. Reflect. You don't need a fancy app or a color-coded spreadsheet. Just grab a notebook or open a simple note on your phone and make it a habit. Ask yourself, what did I do today that moved me forward? What slowed me down? How did I feel after certain habits? Physically, emotionally, mentally? What's one thing I could do better tomorrow? This isn't about judgment. It's about awareness. Because without tracking, you're just guessing. But when you track intentionally, patterns begin to reveal themselves. You start noticing that your best days usually follow a great night of sleep, that you're more focused after movement, that certain routines put you in a better mindset. You realize which habits energize you and which ones quietly drain your momentum. And once you see it, you can adjust. You can plan better. You stop repeating old mistakes and start designing your days with purpose. Tracking keeps you connected to your goals. On the tough days, when progress feels invisible, when results aren't immediate, it gives you proof that you're still moving. You can look back and say, I'm not where I want to be yet, but I'm not where I started either. And that realization alone can reignite your motivation. Progress is rarely loud. It's subtle. It's quiet. It's a few more reps. a slightly better decision, one less excuse. And unless you pause to track those wins, you'll miss them. Think of it like building a house. If you never stop to look at the structure, to check the foundation, to notice the progress, you'll feel like nothing's changing. But if you pause, step back, and take it in, you'll see it. Brick by brick, you're building something solid. And one more thing, tracking builds discipline. It becomes a ritual, a moment of self-respect, a way to say, I care enough about my growth to pay attention to it. You stop drifting. You start designing. And that shift from passive to intentional is where transformation begins. So track your effort, track your energy, track your mindset, and trust this. Even if it feels slow, if you're showing up and paying attention, you're growing. And that matters more than you know. And finally, pay attention to your self-talk. Because the most important conversation you'll ever have is the one you're already having with yourself, quietly, constantly, in the background of everything you do. Your inner voice is either building you up or slowly breaking you down. And most of the time, it's on autopilot, replaying old scripts, fears, and doubts you didn't even choose. You hear it when you fail, when you fall behind, when you feel unsure. It whispers things like, you're not good enough. Why even try? You'll never figure this out. And the danger? You start to believe it. Not because it's true, but because it's familiar. That's why self-awareness is so critical. You have to catch those thoughts, interrupt them, challenge them, and choose better ones. Listen closely. What do you say to yourself when things get hard? What do you say when you make a mistake? Would you ever speak that way to someone you love? Because if not, why speak that way to yourself? Your self-talk doesn't need to be fake or overly positive. It just needs to be true, grounded, and encouraging. Something like, I'm not perfect, but I'm improving, step by step. This is hard, but I can handle it. I've done tough things before. I'll do it again. These aren't lies. They're reminders. Truth-based affirmations that anchor you in possibility, not fear. You don't need to shout them from rooftops. You just need to repeat them, often enough that your brain starts to believe something new. Because here's the science. Your brain listens to your self-talk like commands. If you tell yourself you're weak, it looks for proof. If you tell yourself you're growing, it finds evidence. So, choose your words carefully. They're not just thoughts, they're instructions. Make it a habit. When you wake up, when you hit resistance, when you feel like giving up, pause and ask, what do I need to hear right now? Then give yourself that message, gently, repeatedly, with kindness. Also, surround yourself with voices that reinforce truth. Podcasts, books, mentors, friends. Let them pour wisdom into the places you've been tearing down. Borrow their belief until you can build your own. Because the world is already loud with negativity. You don't need to add to it from the inside out. The way you speak to yourself matters more than you know. It shapes your resilience, your confidence, your willingness to try again. So speak to yourself like someone worth fighting for. Because you are. And that voice inside, it's either a weapon or a tool. Make it a tool for growth. You're not here to live the same year on repeat. You weren't made to just go through the motions, wake, work, scroll, sleep, and call that a life. You're here to grow, to stretch, to evolve, to face challenges that shape you into someone stronger, wiser, and more grounded. You're here to become a version of yourself you're proud of, someone you respect, not because you're perfect, but because you keep showing up. Growth isn't always loud. It's not always dramatic or Instagram-worthy. Most days, it's quiet. It looks like keeping a promise to yourself when no one's watching. It looks like taking the stairs instead of the elevator, speaking up when you'd normally stay silent, choosing focus over distraction, honesty over avoidance, discomfort over ease. That's the real game, not perfection. Progress, not someday, today. Not trying to become someone else, just becoming more of who you're meant to be. So ask yourself every single day, what did I do today to move closer to the person I want to become? It could be something big or something tiny. Did you learn something? Did you keep your word? Did you take the high road? Did you stretch, even just a little? Then ask, what can I do tomorrow that I didn't do today? Because that question holds possibility. That question breaks the loop of living on autopilot. That question invites choice, and choice is power. You don't need to fix everything overnight. You don't need to know exactly where you're going. You just need to be moving, on purpose, one step, one effort, one decision at a time. That's how real change happens, not through willpower bursts or giant leaps, but through daily intention, through the quiet courage of choosing growth even when it's inconvenient, even when no one claps, even when you're tired or scared or uncertain. Because those small daily actions, they compound, they add up, they shape your identity. And one day, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but one day, you'll look in the mirror and realize you've become someone you once only dreamed of being. So keep going, keep asking, keep growing. The next version of you is waiting, and you meet them one day at a time.